As we announced that this month we were going to be working on responsibility, did you wonder if your child will ever really become responsible? As a parent, do you struggle on how to raise a responsible child? Guess what? You're not alone. We all wonder. And hopefully, each of us want our children to learn to be responsible and conquer the world, because the opposite of responsible is entitled. I don't know a parent in the world that wants to raise an entitled child. So, how do we raise that child not to be entitled and think that the world owes them something, but raise our children to become loving, responsible adults? Let's start with answering the question, what makes a responsible child? Responsibility involves making decisions, being trusted, and learning to take credit for their own actions, whether it be good or bad. We want our kids to become more confident and own their own decisions. We want them to begin to see the link between good decisions and good outcomes, and also bad decisions and the bad outcomes from those decisions. In order to do this, we need to give them room to make their own decisions and make mistakes. For example, maybe your child needs to have their computer charged for school, and you remind them, but they still fail to do it. When they get to school, their computer is not charged and they don't have the necessary learning tools that they need to learn. They're visibly upset. And as parents, that's hard for us to let our kids go through that feeling of failure, that upset. But by letting our child experience that instead of fixing it for them, they learn a lesson. So you need to give them room to take responsibility for their own actions, and they have to be responsible for the outcomes of those actions. It's not my fault, it's not your fault if that computer comes to school not charged. It is solely the child's responsibility because they need to be responsible for their things and their learning. Again, I know this is really hard as a parent, but when you let your child fail, you're actually helping them to grow. When you own their mistakes or you let them blame others for their mistakes, they cannot learn and they cannot become more confident in their own abilities. One of the greatest gifts you can give your child are roots of responsibility and the wings of independence. As the adults in our child's lives, it is our duty to change the perspective of what we call a bad outcome. These outcomes are opportunities for our children to learn to grow and accept more and more responsibility. And that's an exciting thing. So one of the first things that you can do for your child is modeling responsibility. As in most parenting tasks, we can't teach what we haven't already learned. Our children need to see us taking responsibility for our actions when we have wronged somebody. Do they see us being responsible for our time? Are we on time to our appointments? Do we respect other people's time? Children do more of what we do and less of what we say. They're influenced by our day-to-day actions, and they watch us every step we make and how we respond to situations. We have to be good models for our children in hopes that one day they will be good adults. So how do we know what the right level of responsibility for our children are? Our children are constantly growing and learning new things. They're moving from one level of maturity to the next, and their responsibility should grow with them. One sure sign our children are ready to move to the next level is when they can quickly handle their current responsibility loads. The first level of responsibility children must learn is managing themselves and controlling their impulses. For example, we teach them not to hit. They choose whether or not they hit, but they learn quickly that hitting isn't an acceptable response and they have to control their impulse. By 8 years old, your child should be ready to start making simple meals in the microwave or sandwiches and baking with you. Your children should start cleaning up after meals and cleaning up after themselves. They should be bringing their dishes to the sink and even helping put things in the trash and cleaning up their own spills. They should be able to help you with laundry by putting their items in the washing machine as well as folding them and putting their items away back in the drawers where they go. As your children go with their responsibilities, you can pay them for doing simple, paid jobs. I've used the Greenlight debit card for my child. This is when you give them a chore to do, and then once that chore is complete, you would transfer money electronically from your checking account to their cards. This keeps it simple so that I don't always have to go to the bank to get cash, but I have money to pay them. They can also shop online with my help. Don't give warnings or reminders. Dr. Kevin Leman says that warnings are a disrespectful act. Whether you agree or disagree with the statement, it probably makes you think twice about warnings and reminders and the purpose they serve or they don't serve. The point he makes is that by lecturing, nagging, warning, or reminding, we're essentially saying to our child that they're not smart enough or capable enough to follow through with our request. Now, our kids may need visual reminders, and so you write it on the calendar and they have to check their calendar to see if they've done everything that they need to do for the day. A better approach is to be clear and follow through. Make sure your child knows exactly what you need them to do, and enforce the consequences when they're not done or the behavior does not meet the standards in which was already set. We do that a lot here in the clinic. We set an expectation, we tell them how that they can meet that and what needs to be done to meet those expectations. We also let them know if they fail, the consequences for their failure. The best consequences for them to have is ones that they'll face in the real world, real reality type consequences. This way, it's much more effective in teaching the lessons and cultivating responsibility long term. In less gentling parenting phrases, if you don't pull your weight, behave appropriately, and follow the rules, you're going to face the music. A really good example of this is that if you have a bedtime and a bedtime routine and your child lags at the bedtime routine and is late going to bed, then maybe they don't get their story time read to them. This is a nice natural consequence and a real reality set. I know it's a super sad one for us as adults because we enjoy that time with them too, but teaching them real life lessons is important to getting them to the next phase of life. And it's important for us as parents to let go of the guilt. It's okay to let our children fail. In fact, it's actually important to let them fail. It teaches them important life lessons and gets them ready for adulthood. Who wants our kids living with us forever in the basement? Remember, as parents, when we stress everything, it creates a negative atmosphere around our family, and it's totally counterproductive to change behavior. Okay, now you got it. You're going to not helicopter parent your child, and you're going to let them fall on their face occasionally. What do you do then next? You're going to let them fix their own mistakes. Whether it's an accident, a mistake, careless words, we all come to an understanding that we're the only one responsible for fixing our own mistakes, or at least attempting to fix them. For example, when your child is caught spewing hateful words to their siblings, to you, to their teachers, to their friends, you want them to think about the power of their words. Would they like it if somebody talked to them that way? How would they feel? When you overlook hateful words, you're teaching them that they can't help their impulsive behavior, but we know that they can, and it must be okay for other people to talk to them that way, and it definitely is not. Responsibility and respect go hand in hand. Having a standard of respect for others and responsibility when that line is crossed should be mandatory in your home. Hurtful words can be damaging and can be hard to fix. So that's why I emphasize the point here. Sometimes mistakes can't be avoided. We can and must show our kids grace in those moments. However, it's equally as important to teach them to make amends. For instance, if they break someone's favorite toy, they need to apologize for it and offer to earn the money to replace it. And for us as adults, it's equally as important for us to ask for forgiveness when we have done wrong. When we make a misstep or we raise our voices out of anger or tiredness, when we apologize, this speaks volumes to our kids who are watching to see if we hide from our failures or humbly own up to them and seek the righteous, responsible path instead. Remember that the outside world is bombarding our kids every day, and it's not very hard for them to see entitled behavior. It's all over in the form of YouTube personalities, spoiled pop stars, and even the kids next door. It's time for us to take our family back and give them opportunities to teach our kids what from right and wrong and responsibility. Finally, we also want to teach them how to treat others. Finally, when these lessons are finally sinking in, and even when you see a hint of responsibility taking note, make sure that you praise them for this, honor them, and let them know what a good job they're doing. I know the mission feels impossible to teach responsibility to our children, but practice makes perfect. It takes time to enforce boundaries and consequences, but on a consistent basis, you'll see change. When your children learn to take responsibility for their actions, they'll set a higher standards and others will notice that too. Teaching your child this important character trait is going to serve them throughout their lives, in their future jobs, their relationships, and everything else in their life. Take heart, moms and dad, and raise responsible kids. Our children's future is now, and every step that we make today makes a